Hello, Eternal Life fans. It's Rowan from the Eternal Life Fan Club, and I'm actually going to be watching one of my old videos called Atheism. Is Atheism Depressing? And I'll tell you right now, it is. I was the most depressed I ever was when I was an atheist. Okay, you fall into this despair. Okay, it's a very depressing life outlook, okay? And, we'll get into that. That's what this whole video is about. But I feel kind of bad that I might have influenced people to be an atheist, when I was making all these atheist videos. And I've been contemplating, if I should leave the videos up, if I should take them down. I'll just leave them up. I like the idea of leaving them up because it's kind of part of, I guess, it shows the growth I've done over the years, since I've evolved out of atheism. But the point of this video is I'm going to be watching this and seeing if I can point out some of the flaws I had with my thinking and just where I was kind of wrong. Let's see. I have a confession to make. Ever since becoming an atheist, I have become much more depressed. My outlook on life is much more gloomy because, let's face it, let's face the reality that atheism, the consequences of atheism are pretty hellish. It's pretty scary to think that when you die, you're going to cease to exist. And, when I was a religious person, when I believed in heaven, let me just tell you, when I was an atheist, it was so stressful. I would have, panic attacks about death. I was literally, so stressed out. The stress was killing me. The stress, my whole goal is to live forever, right? And the stress of being an atheist was so depressing and stressful. It was literally bad for my health. So that was not good. So what's the point of that? It helps to have hope. God, the idea of a God that might help you live forever, that helps give you more hope, and therefore it relieves stress. It's a good thing. If you can muster up the faith in God and trying to have that in your life's going to go better. I think there's even statistics that show religious people who believe in God, they're just healthier. They live longer in general because just even the belief is good for you. So, if you can believe, look, I get it that I'm going on a tangent here. I'll talk more about it, but let's see what else I had to say. I used to, it was comforting. It was great because I thought, oh, wow, I'm going to get to go to heaven when I die. And that was so awesome. But now I don't have that. I'm thinking now if I die, I'm going to cease to exist, and that's terrifying. And I guess the point I want to make in this video is that I wish more atheists would just admit that atheism is not a happy thing. Right. That's always how I felt. I felt that as an atheist, I was kind of in a unique position there because I was always very honest about how horrible atheism is. It's just the idea that there's, that there's no help from a divine being, right? You have to admit that from an atheistic worldview, it is much, much harder to live forever. So it makes the task of eternal life that much harder and that much more scary and terrifying that it's there's much less hope, right? There's some, as an atheist, there's some hope that maybe we can cure aging, conquer death ourselves with technology and everything like that. But you're missing out on the hopefulness of that a God, something as powerful as a God, would help you in that endeavor to live forever, assuming you're obeying all the rules and you're, but there's this hope that the God could help you live forever. That's all missing with atheism, and that's why it is very depressing Now, obviously, I understand being an atheist, like, I understand it's not a choice. I never chose to be an atheist. It was out of my control. Like, people don't choose what they believe. Belief isn't this switch you can flip on and off, like, I'm just going to decide what to believe, right? Belief is involuntary in that sense. But as an atheist, you can do things that would increase the likelihood of you end up believing in God. And since belief in God is so healthy and such a good thing and it gives you hope, why wouldn't you want that? Why wouldn't you want to do those things that might increase your chances of believing? Like I did. When I was an atheist, I wanted to believe, so I started reading the Bible more. I started praying. You know, you can do these things as an atheist, and this is what I would encourage my audience. If you're an atheist, like, if you understand that you don't want to be in this miserable state of atheism, like, you can try to get out of it, right? You can try to do things that maybe you'd end up being a believer if you tried hard enough and you pray, and even things like the Lord's Supper, which I did the entire time that I was an atheist. I would take the Lord's Supper every year. That's a thing that I did. Of course, I did it not because I believed in God, but because I was fearful of the possibility of God. And just the fear of the possibility of God, I wanted to obey as many rules as I could. And that's why I took the Lord's Supper. I'm like, hey, you know, if I can just do this thing, why not? Why not do this thing like taking the Lord's Supper? It's an action. It's not a belief. Anyone can do it. So I did that, even as an atheist. And it's also a very good practice because it does kind of remind you. It's a mental note in your mind every time you take the Lord's Supper. Oh, wait, there is this, this possibility that there's this guy named Jesus and, he died, resurrected. It gives you more hope that if you're obeying the rules of God, that, maybe you would have a resurrection, that maybe that God would help you resurrect, help you get eternal life, these things. It's it's a good, beautiful hope. So why wouldn't you want to take the Lord's Supper, even as an atheist, and contemplate and reflect on the possibility that Jesus, died and resurrected, because that's such a great thing, and it's a very hopeful thing. So that's the sort of the strategy I would recommend to an atheist. If you're watching, you can do things that might help you end up believing. Do these ritualistic things, and definitely prayer. I think that helps too. You can pray to God even if you don't believe in it, right? And praying to the God might end up helping you believe. That's what happened to me. I prayed. I said, hey, God, help me believe. Like, I want to believe, and then I ended up believing, and you could try that. Okay? Atheism is not a happy thing.
But perhaps you might not be entirely happy with the situation.
How could anyone be happy?
And it's weird to me that when I see a lot of other atheists, what they say and everything, it kind of feels like, it comes across like they're happy. Like they're almost like rejoicing that there's no God and there's no afterlife and all this stuff. And like they're like happy that they yeah, kind of makes you think, why are all these atheists so happy?
And I wonder if something else that's new about new atheism is this idea that it's somehow good news that we live in a godless universe.
Yes, I think that's fair observation. Classical atheists like Bertrand Russell and others were sorry that God doesn't exist. Russell said, only upon the firm foundation of unyielding despair can life's foundation be firmly built. And yet the new atheists seem to have no consciousness of the consequences of atheism, and therefore have this sort of glib, celebratory attitude that I think is quite superficial and thoughtless.
Yeah, what are the implications?
The human race and all of life, the universe, is destined to perish in the eventual heat death of the universe. So there is no purpose. I don't think there's any ultimate meaning or significance to life on the atheistic view.
That's the most depressing idea ever, that there's not a God. And that's what led me to my depression as an atheist. They're gonna die and cease to exist. And like, that is crazy to me. I do not understand how, to me it seems like atheism is a truth that we should like regret that it's true. It's like something that it's a horrible fact that the universe is indifferent and that. Okay, notice how I called it a fact? What the heck is that about? I just called it a fact that the universe is indifferent. Listen to my language there. That's retarded. It's not a fact that the universe is indifferent. That's basically saying it's a fact that there's no God. That sounded almost to me like a Gnostic atheism. Of course, I never said I was I was always an agnostic atheist when I was an atheist. But still, just the language I used there was very just ridiculous. Why did I say it's a fact? See, what the heck is that? It's almost like I was trying to brainwash myself that there was no God. I was trying to delude myself. For what reason? I don't know. Maybe I just wanted to feel like this really skeptical, smart person. Oh, look, I'm smart. Look, I'm this atheist skeptic. I'm going to call it a fact that there is no God. It makes no sense. What was I thinking? There's just, there's death to look forward to. We don't have an existential safety net of the afterlife like religious people do. They feel like, oh, I'm going to die and go to heaven. And if that was true, wouldn't that be awesome? Now, here's the thing. Notice me. I don't even sound hopeful that there's a heaven. Like, even if you didn't believe in a heaven as an atheist, why couldn't you at least be somewhat hopeful? Everyone should admit heaven is at least possible, right? So why have such a pessimistic attitude? Why not be hopeful of something if it can increase your happiness? And it's possible, right? It's possible after all. And the idea of it, the idea of resurrection and, that all gives us more incentive to be extra good. Like we're obeying the rules, because we might get rewarded, right? Like even if you go to a cemetery, right? I've done a bunch of tombstone talks. We don't know for sure that these people in the cemetery are really dead. It's possible. It's possible that they've been resurrected, that Jesus had resurrected, God had resurrected them if they, did the right things, if they were good, if they had good fruits, right? The Bible talks about having good fruits. It's possible that not all those people are like gone. And so, at least be hopeful. I don't even sound hopeful. What the heck is that about? And I think a lot of atheists are in the same position. They're not even trying to have any sliver of hope that any of these things that, of course, sound fantastic on the surface. Oh, it sounds all just like wishful thinking. Look, I get it. But it's possible. And so why not, have a seed of hope that it is true?
That isn't very reassuring.
I know. Of course I would want that to be true, right? But it's wishful thinking, and that's what atheists understand. Yes, but just because it's wishful thinking doesn't mean it's not true. Sometimes the wishful thing, the ideal thing that we can imagine, does end up being the real thing. So it's not, my argument here is not that great when you think about it. Just because it's wishful thinking doesn't mean it isn't true, okay? So there might be a resurrection of the dead. Like, I don't know that that's not true, so why be so pessimistic? I understand that we should we should always fear death. We should fear death simply because, of course, we don't know that there's an afterlife or a resurrection. I get that. And I get the importance of having that fear of death always. We should never lose our fear of death. But, there's no reason not to have hope as well. A hope that, death could be overcome, death could be conquered, that there could be a God helping us live forever and helping us overcome death if we are, obeying the rules, if we're actually if we're trying to please the God, right? We're trying to live a good life, that God might see that and help us live forever. You should always have that as well, as a hope, as something you're striving for, something you're trying for. Is that no matter how badly you want there to be an afterlife, and you want there to be a God, it's just wishful thinking, and there's never been any proof for it, and it's most likely not true. Now, here's the thing, all right? I just said it's most likely not true. Where am I getting that statistic from? How am I able to judge the likelihood of the afterlife? What data am I using to judge that likelihood? I'm completely pulling that out of thin air, by saying it's most likely not true. What the heck? That's not good logic. Why did I say that? You see, it's like I wasn't thinking that deeply. I had some errors in my thought process.
Our answer is honest, and it's blunt, and it's painful. We're not sugarcoating it. It is a massive jump to go from I'm going to live forever in the sky in a cloud fiesta to no, you're not. You're going to be in a dial tone situation where you're dead.
Once again, why the attitude of such certainty that it is one way or the other? Why not be more hopeful of the good possibilities, right? It's like, yeah, why this extreme stating it as if it's a fact? Like, we don't know, right? Like, let's be hopeful, right? We don't know that death is truly, truly the end. There could be a reward of eternal life for the people that passed the test. If life is a test, if this life is a test, if God is testing us, if these are the testing grounds, then hypothetically it makes perfect sense that there could be a reward for the people who pass the test, okay? Including an afterlife. That is a possibility, and why be so closed off to that possibility? It just does not make sense. You know what I mean?
So when we think about what is lost when we jettison religion, the thing that gets lost, the thing for which there is no real substitute, is total consolation in the face of death.
Now, here's the thing. Also, of course, what I'm saying here, it does not conflict with trying to live forever physically. I mean, even the Bible talks about treating your body like a temple and being healthy as possible. And what aligns with that? Of course. Why not? Why not try to live forever physically? There's nothing against the rules of God about like trying to live forever, right? No, God isn't telling us we can't help our own health. And as far as I know, I've never heard God say we can't, be as healthy as possible and try to cure aging and everything. That seems to be perfectly in alignment with God. So it's not like this huge conflict here. Like, I'm still going to try to live forever physically. Like, just because I believe in God doesn't mean I'm also not going to be as healthy as possible. In fact, if there's a God, right, God might judge us for not caring about our health and trying to be as healthy as possible. It always just makes sense to be as healthy as we possibly can be. You know what else? What the problem with atheism is? It's like, okay, when I was an atheist, I always was a God-fearing atheist. I was living my life according to rules. I was trying to obey God on the chance that maybe there was a God and I better be better safe than sorry and live a good life and everything and be a God-fearing person. But I look around me and actually most atheists weren't doing that. So I was a rare exception, a God-fearing type of atheist, if such a thing could be. If such a thing could be, I was certainly that. But when I look around, most atheists aren't God-fearing. It's like, because they feel they're so sure that there's not a God that they don't have any incentive to live a God-fearing life. They're not trying to obey God. They're not trying to obey the rules of God. They're not trying to, they're certainly not trying to obey the rules in the Bible, or even any other holy books for that matter. They're not even trying to guess the rules of God and obey that. It's because they're overconfident, and they're overconfident that there isn't a God, right? Be open-minded, and from that open-mindedness, then you'll leave room that maybe you would end up believing. But you have to have that open-minded mind that is like questioning and open to the possibility. Are you really, as an atheist, are you open to the possibility that there's a God? Are you truly open? I mean, you could say, oh, I wish there was a God or whatever, but are you truly in your heart open? Do you want there to be a God? Are you looking for the answers? Because if you're not even praying to God as an atheist, I would say you're not really open to the idea of God. Because if you're really open to the idea of God, wouldn't you at least be praying and seeking that possibility? Wouldn't you be praying to God, trying to communicate with God, and helping God to ask God to help you believe and see the truth, and ask God to help you understand if there is a God, right? Wouldn't you be in dialogue with God if you're actually truly open? How many of these atheists out there are truly seeking to find out if there's a God, right? And I think the actions would speak louder than words. If they're not taking the Lord's Supper, if they're not praying to God, if they're not even reading the Bible at all, then how open-minded are they? Right? Seriously. Yeah. So my final conclusion here is, I'm not going to go through my whole video. It's just too long. I just wanted to see if I'm, I wanted to just see how I used to think here and see if I could try to criticize myself and see if, the thoughts can be improved, okay? So we're going to try to, I just tell people, look, be open to the possibility of God. Really be open. Really be open. And seek, and don't stop trying to find the truth. Seek and you shall find, knock and the door will be open, right? You have to want to find the truth.
How do I get through?
Huh? Knock and the door will open.
Oh.
That's it. Thank you, and may you live forever.
Sol,